Hi everyone. Before I go full Abby on Randy, make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Rating us 5-star and leaving a review really helps us out, so to those of you who have, know that we appreciate you. Enjoy today's episode and make sure you stick around to the end to find out what's coming next. Now onto the show.
Welcome to Read, Watch, Play, your dive into stories we love and how they're adapted. This week, we've upgraded from the Boston QZ, coming to you live from Jackson. This is episode 38 and we are covering The Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 1. My name is Randy Berridge, and back for his third time is everyone's favorite bloater, Nick Hinkson. Let's go. I was checking.
This is why I'm going full Abby on you.
I think it was, I can't remember if it was the third episode or the fourth episode. One of the two we did on The Last of Us. I think you had gone out the night before. You had some sort of party or celebration, and you were really hungover last time we did this. So you said the bloater was pretty apt. What are we covering here today?
Yeah, so we're covering Naughty Dog's COVID Spectacular, The Last of Us 2, which is now in its second season over at HBO. We covered Season 1 when we were baby podcasters, so if you're looking to see how far we've come, you can find our two-part coverage of Season 1 in episodes 3 and 4. Randy, did you re-listen to those? Is that how you got the bloater comment, or was that off the dome?
That was off the dome, but I was looking at our notes.
Yeah, I cringe at everything prior to Oppenheimer, so I don't re-listen to them.
No, I don't even listen to our stuff now outside of editing. I can't do it. Just like literally can't. Yeah, I mean, the structure is going to be a little bit. It's not as simple as it was because we covered Season 1 after the full season had aired, so we weren't too concerned with like Season 1 spoilers for people. We're in Episode 1. Kind of covering this live. It just came out 2 days ago, right? And Nick and I know what happens in the game. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna speak a little high level about our thoughts on the game. I think it's worthwhile, even if you're just a show watcher. And then we're gonna get into Episode 1. And then after we have some Episode 1 combo, we'll just do a short spoiler section at the end that encompasses everything we know of the game. But for those who are just like watching along with the show, if we pick up some, listeners who are just here for The Last of Us, we're not going to spoil the entire show for you during the episode conversation. We'll get into that at the end, and I'll give a spoiler warning. Maybe we'll add in a clicker noise or something, but that'll be your cue to get the heck out of here.
Randy's doing his best clicker impression, so at least wait for that to happen before you quit.
Yeah, I could do that. I feel like we did clicker impressions.
I know we've done dragon impressions.
Yeah, we did dragons for sure. I feel like we might have done clickers too. But all that to say, if you're coming along for the ride of The Last of Us, you haven't played the game, don't have fear in the beginning. You'll be all right. We'll fully warn you when we get to spoilers at the end. After that, you're on your own. Plot synopsis. I'm just going to give a general overview because we're only one episode in here. The Last of Us Part 2, after a brief reminder of where we ended Part 1, picks up 5 years later in the show. It's 4 years later in the game. Part 2 continues our journey with Joel and Ellie, now permanent residents of Jackson, which has begun to thrive as a small community. We find ourselves in a world that is attempting to adjust to life post-outbreak, but despite how much we want to just move on, there are consequences to the decisions we have made in Part 1. And as we feel the fallout of those, can we stop these cycles of pain and violence? That is kind of the thrust of the season, being as vague as I could possibly be. But that's where we're heading. I mean, and that's kind of like what they're tackling here. So, Nick, I say we just get into it. I have a few pew-pews. I don't know if you have any, but I say we just roll right into talking about The Last of Us.
Yeah, I did. I added a few.
Cool.
To your list.
Would you rather fight 10 stalkers or 1 Rat King?
10 stalkers.
They're pretty scary.
You're the Rat King?
At least with the Rat King, you're fighting it, and like it could be quick death. I feel like the stalker's going to play with me, and that kind of scares me.
Fair enough. All right, way too soon overreaction. Who's your favorite new character?
We'll see. I mean, Jesse right now, mainly because I literally was looking up. I was like, was this the voice actor? Because this guy sounded so much like Jesse from the game.
Is it?
It's not. But I thought he was really great in just the small snippet we got of him, and I'm excited to see some more Jesse down the road. If we get more Jesse down the road, maybe
I got to get Dina.
Yeah,
Dina was awesome. I thought she stood out on screen.
Yeah. She was good in the new Alien movie, Alien Romulus. Really enjoyed her in that. If you could pick one city to rebuild life in, like a Jackson, what would it be?
Mm. Cancun?
Just margaritas and tacos?
We are putting we are putting a big emphasis on getting the pina colada machines up and running as
Yeah.
fast as possible.
Yeah. Turn the pina colada constructometer up a little bit.
The constructometer on my rum factory is all the way up.
that was the funniest part of the episode for me when Tommy plays it back and he's just like, "Oh, did you tell her about the constructometer, the big dial?" that got me. I'd have to go coastal town as well, maybe like a San Diego. Nice weather all the time.
I'm going there for the first time in a few weeks.
Nice.
Never been there.
Oh, love it. Had my 21st birthday there. You got the next one?
Oh, I do. Yeah. What would be your job in your rebuilt city?
Jester? No, I don't know. I'm not handy, but I'm definitely not a construction rebuild the town handy. So I think that's probably out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, realistically, it would probably be like something boring like town treasurer. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about a more fun answer. What about you?
I think I would be the mayor of Daiquiri Town.
Or Daiquiri Town?
Yep.
That's true. Yeah, maybe I'd be like bringing coffee back. Maybe I'd be the town barista or something.
Ooh, there you go.
Or
I can
I'd
see that.
venture out and procure new beans for us. Because I don't know how
Bean
to
Boy.
get new beans. Yeah, Bean Boy. What's your favorite weapon to use in The Last of Us?
Firearms. I don't want to be anywhere near any of these bad guys.
Yeah, bow and arrow is my favorite.
That's a good
I
one.
love the stealth kills because I
That's
start
a
to
good
get
one.
real freaked out when things start really popping off, and I like to stay under the radar for as long as I can.
You know what's funny is in most games, I would agree with you. Like, I love Assassin's Creed and I'm all about the stealth kills there. Every other game, I'm trying to be sneaky the whole time. In this game, I go full Leroy Jenkins and just sprint into rooms. Just, or like reckless abandon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just how I chose to play both the Last of Us games.
Yeah, I'm not that way. If I can get through without disturbing the peace, I do it.
Yeah.
All right, a little bit of background on the game. This was one of the most anticipated sequels in gaming history. If you want more details on the original game, you can check out those first episodes. We go into a lot more of Naughty Dog and how Neil Druckmann came up with the idea and all of that stuff. But I'll just say here, this was in development shortly after the release. It was written again by Neil and Haley Gross, who was a writer on Westworld Season 1 when that show was good. And after delays, the game was finally released, as Nick said, in June of 2020. Peak COVID, 3 months into it. It's what everyone wanted, was a pandemic game. And became the fastest selling PS4 exclusive, over 4 million units in its first weekend. And one of the top selling games on the PS4 as a whole. What a staggering. Does everybody just have a game award? It says 320 game awards. I'm like,
Yeah,
how many
I
game
have a
awards
game
can there
award.
possibly? We could have a game award on here.
How much do you think COVID influenced those sales? I mean, we were in a world where no one had anywhere to go. Morale was low. Do you think that influenced it? Do you think the world needed such a heavy video game in 2020?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was supposed to come out in 19, so they weren't. What are you going to do? Pull the plug on it? Like, that's not an option. But I mean, I think gaming as a whole had a huge boom during COVID. I mean, I think the Nintendo Switch had a second life because of COVID. So people were definitely gaming, I'd say, more and buying more then. It seems to have tapered off a little bit. I know the gaming industry is dealing with some of that bloat that came, but I guarantee more people were checking it out because they had time on their hands. Absolutely. Did you play this upon release?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sat in my COVID bubble.
Yeah.
Me and my roommate Dwayne, and I just, that was an interesting time because I think I had already started a project at work where I was working from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
on a project related to the PPP loans. And but I only worked 4 days a week. So I had like 3 days where I was, it was funny because, I would wake up, eat, breakfast / dinner, whatever you want to call it. Then I would play games with my friends.
Yeah.
And then my friends would go to bed. And then me and all my coworkers would like start texting and meeting up and playing video games or whatever, because nobody else is awake from like 2 to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
on a Thursday, right?
Yeah.
And then in that time, I played The Last of Us
Yeah.
2. The Last of Us 2.
Yeah. And you played the first one, just a reminder. Did you play that pretty early in its release or no?
I didn't actually. No. I didn't play that game until 2014.
Okay. That's not too far after it.
I played the game because, I lived with Joe Sano in college, senior year, and we would talk about different games all the time. He's the one who got me into Mass Effect as well.
Yeah.
And he is like, Nick, you got to listen to me. You have to play this. And then at the time, I finally got a PS4 around that time. And he was like, you need to, whatever you were planning on doing, scratch that. You're playing The Last of Us. I said, all right. And I played it. And I played it in like a weekend. I could not stop.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. I mean, it's only like 10 hours too. 10 or 12. Yeah. I was pretty hyped for this coming out. And I remember when they announced it, like a surprise announce. I think it was at like a PSX, like a PlayStation conference. And I've watched the crowd video of this 50 times in my life, of just like people, that first trailer where like you see a kind of an abandoned dystopia, and then it zooms out and it zooms out further, and then you see the Firefly logo, and people are just losing their minds in the crowd. And, this is going to be a big part, I think, of what we talk about with the episode, but you see Ellie in that trailer, and Ellie is much older, and she is not the same Ellie. Like, she is angry and serious, and it's just, you're like, whoa, this is going to be a different game. I don't know how much I like want to dwell on it, but I feel like it's impossible not to talk about the release a little bit, because as you said, this game, did we need another heavy game? I mean, this came out at a tough time in the world, and stack on top of that, there were some story elements that started to leak, and there was like a very vocal minority that like freaked out, and the game became like a hotbed for this culture war that we know and love these days, because by this time it had been well known that Ellie was gay. There was Abby in the game, different than the show, is like extremely buff, which is a problem for people, I guess. And there's a trans character in The Last of Us Part 2. So on top of like COVID, those plot elements, I mean, people were just like losing their minds. And it was like the first time I remember like review bombing, like really being a thing, like where the game had not even been out yet for an hour or two, and people were like posting zeros and ones on every review aggregator website. And it's like, you haven't even gotten into the game yet. Like, you're just doing this. And that's kind of when I just started to lose faith in people and review sites. And it has really made me jaded to this day. I remember watching, there was like a spoiler cast the day of release by this gaming website I still listen to, Kind of Funny. And they had on the voice actors, Troy, who does Joel, Ashley, who does Ellie, Laura, who does Abby, and Neil. And like, they looked just like shell shocked, because the girl who does Abby was getting like death threats. Like, she was like crying on the game cast, and like Troy was like trying to like talk her down. Like, it was just a depressing release, I'm sure, after like something they worked so hard on.
Yeah.
And that's just like such a bummer. And I'm just like, people suck, man.
Yeah.
I feel like it's impossible not to talk about with this one. But there is a certain point where I'm like, do I even want to give like smoke to that stuff on like our podcast? Like, at a certain point, do we just like pretend those people don't even exist? Like,
yeah.
Unless someone's on here spouting off.
I think we've given them enough airtime. They can go fuck themselves, and we'll move on. Yeah.
I mean, feel like just be respectful. Don't be a bigot. If you're going to critique something, critique it in good faith. Like, if you do those three things, you'll be all right.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, it's not like this. No one said this game has to be your favorite. You can not like the game.
Totally.
You can think that there are things that need to be fixed. There was definitely things that need to be fixed. They put out like 3 bug releases. Like,
Yeah.
you can find ways to critique this, accurately if
Yeah.
you're that self-righteous about it.
Totally. So, high level thoughts. Last of Us Part 2. What do you think of the game when you were playing at 3 a.m. or whenever you were?
I did not enjoy this as much as I enjoyed The Last of Us 1.
Mm-hmm.
I was shell-shocked right in the beginning,
Yeah.
and then I thought the plot got a little bit redundant, and the ending left me sad. So the ending was good. It just left me sad, but
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it as much as the first Last of Us game. I think
Yeah.
it was mostly because I felt like it got a little redundant in the middle,
Yeah.
and that kind of took me out of it a little bit. That's my biggest critique of the game.
Yeah. I mean, we'll go into game details over the course of this season. And I guess we won't even get there in this season because they're splitting it up a little bit. But man, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, part 1 leaves you with like a lot to think about. Part 2 just left me emotionally wrung out. Like I felt like a sponge that had just been squeezed and I had no more left to give. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a gorgeous game. It's violent. It's emotionally taxing in every way. It's like, it is the experience where I can totally see why some of these plot elements do not work for people. And like people don't like it. Like I have no qualms with that. It really worked for me. Like full stop, like pretty clear top 5 games of all time. This one and the first one are in the top 5 for me. Like I love both. Which I like better. I used to always say it was part 2, but then when I replayed part 1 for season 1, I was like, maybe actually part 1 is my favorite. So I'm excited to go back to this one and see. I just remember the combat being insane in this game. Like so fluid. I loved how you could like attack areas in like completely unique ways.
Yeah.
And I felt like the enemy AI was like so smart that like it truly felt like the first time where I'm like, I can do anything. Like I can approach this in any way I want. And I thought that was really cool. And then I think this game has maybe 2 moments that just had my jaw drop, like in bad and good ways. And I'll just leave it there where I was like, I can see how some people can come back from this. And their whole purpose of the game is like, can they reel you back in after making some of these choices? And they did for me, but I can totally see why some people just couldn't be reeled back in. And I think the final thing I'll say is like, I do really appreciate that like this game tries to actually deal with the consequences of what goes on in the first game. And I think many movies or books you read could like, you think about like, okay, well, what happens the next day after all of this? And sequels come out and they kind of just like try and hand wave some of that stuff to continue telling the story. And I feel like in painful ways, this one tries to really reckon with those decisions, which I think is profound, if not enjoyable all the time. Like you're not enjoying playing aspects of this game. But I don't know. Does that resonate with you?
No, it does. And I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself because I don't know how to talk about what you said without spoiling the entire season for people.
Yeah. We'll talk about it at the spoiler at the end.
Yeah.
All right. So hit me with it. Episode 1, Future Days, Instant Reactions.
Good episode of TV. I think it was a good adaptation of the beginning of the source material. It introduced you to the characters you needed to know. It covered some pretty important parts of the game. You know, the storytelling of it's kind of like the tutorial and chapters 1 and 2 of the game, right? Like, like the first 2 breaks. And I think it was a really cool cliffhanger they left it on with the tendrils coming out of the pipe and the sparkler, and then you see Abby overlooking Jackson, Wyoming. Like you're like, oh, it's about to go down. Like it was, I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's some new stuff for us. Like we don't really, even as game players, know. We can infer what might happen with these tendrils in the pipes, but that whole hive mind stuff is new for us from season 1. So we don't really know what's going to go on there, which is exciting. I agree. I think this game was like a feast for fans of the game. with like one or two choices and things going on that I'm a little skeptical about. I agree. I think it was a good premiere. Like it felt like the beginning of a video game, like you said, where you're kind of like easing in, and it's never going to be my favorite part of the game. It's never the most exciting, but it's just like you're getting warmed up a little bit again. I felt like after the pilot, I was so nervous in season 1 that I was like, I had a huge exhale where I was like, okay, this show is in good hands. They did it. I didn't necessarily have that with this season because like they've earned a lot of goodwill from season 1, but I'm like, so much has changed in like part 2 versus part 1 of the game that I'm like, there's a part of me that's even more nervous heading into season 2 of like the task that these creators have to do to like pull off this story. And I'm not totally sold yet. I think it was a solid episode, but I just have some questions. And maybe it's just, I felt like I was sitting with this doom and dread at the end, thinking this season is just going to be pain. And like, can I go through this again? Yeah, but overall, I thought it was pretty good. Maybe I'm going to have some notes on maybe how 19-year-olds act versus what I what I think is being portrayed on the screen, because that like some of that stuff did not work for me. But overall, I had a good time. I thought it was a good start, not a great start.
Interesting. Dude, you're such a hater. I don't get it, but I have to completely disagree that they haven't earned just having faith that they did it well. I mean,
I did say they earned that.
no, you said you're not sure yet because you're a little worried. You said
No, I said I am worried, but I was like, they've completely earned the faith that like this is going to be good and I trust them. But I was just feeling the nervousness of like what I know the game entails, that I'm just like emotionally scared to get into this.
I think they're gonna do a great job.
Yeah.
We've talked about HBO before, and I just have given HBO my full faith that whatever they do is going to be of the highest quality and respect to the source material. So I'm excited, and I think episode 2 is going to be one for the ages, and I am excited for, what is it, Sunday night?
Yeah.
Also, can we talk about something, HBO? We gotta move the release times up. I am such an old man. I go to bed so early on Sundays, and
Dude, you're in Central Time. I don't even want to hear it.
I know it's 8
It's 9
p.m.
here.
my time, but by the time I've watched it, it's 9 p.m. and now I've got to, feel what I have to feel and then go to bed. But yeah, you're right. It's 9 p.m. your time. I'm just saying. All I'm saying, my biggest problem with HBO is we need to move these up 1 hour, and the West Coast can just deal with it being at dinner time.
I mean, it already is. It's 6 p.m. there. That's crazy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, I couldn't imagine just like sitting down with the light outside watching like primetime HBO. Yeah, I don't have the issue of like sitting with it too much after, because I'm like such a sleepy person that 10 p.m. hits and I'm like, I'm ready to go to bed. Maybe I'll see what Reddit's saying, but that's about it.
It took me 3 hours to fall asleep after the Severance finale.
Yeah, that's true. There used to be some Game of Thrones episodes where I'm like, I can't go to bed. I just need to sit here and think about this. One thing I want to discuss as we kind of like break down this episode is instead of like, we don't need to go through beat by beat, but I almost want to talk about like the pairings, because I felt like that was a real aspect of this episode. And I think even as you think about season 1 and they talk about the name of this, The Last of Us, we're seeing, the last of Bill and Frank. We're seeing the last of, what are the guy and the son they meet, or the brother in the one town, and they die, like Henry and Sam. Like, we're constantly seeing and breaking pairings. And so I just kind of want to present like discussion based on those pairings. So Ellie and Joel, like, you got to start there. How did this pairing work for you in terms of what you were seeing in episode 1?
It was exactly what I remember from the game. Just this, something has happened. It's been 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Whether she's figured it out, or whether she doesn't trust him, or whether she's just growing up and he's a parent figure. There's some sort of tension between them. Neither one of them is good at talking about their feelings, so you can feel the lack of it being resolved. I think that worked really well for me.
Yeah.
I loved how they had a lot of nods to the video game in the dynamic between those two as well. Even with all the new things they've added in,
Yeah.
they really, I thought, gave the video game players some little Easter eggs there that
Mhm.
might go unnoticed to just casual fans of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was heartbreaking stuff. Like, you just want more than anything them to, like, squash this, like, as you're watching it, and it's just so difficult to see them like, seeing just Pedro Pascal's acting is on another level as Joel, like, maybe the best I've ever seen him do in anything I've watched Pedro Pascal in. And just, like, the look he gives when he sees the guitar, like, discarded in the pile of laundry, and it's just like it just makes me feel so bad. And, like, nothing about this episode made me feel good or happy outside of their constructometer jokes, and it's just heartbreaking. I mean, and then even the end scene, and it was just brutal. I mean, seeing after the dance her walk by him, and it was hard. I I have some suspicions of, like, some of the writing, because I feel like this is a different Ellie than the game in terms of part 2. As we talked about, like, part 2 Ellie is, like, extremely serious, depressive, and angry. Like, the silliness has kind of is gone from her. That, like, child naivete is, like, not there anymore. I suspect, though, they maybe wanted to give us one last episode of, like, fun goofing around Ellie before at the end of this episode, like, there's this final schism between Joel and Ellie. And I think maybe they wanted to, like, slow roll us into, like, the more serious version of Ellie we get in part 2 of the game. So it didn't feel as jarring in, like, an episode of, like, what happened to Ellie, because she's just so different in part 2 of the game.
Yeah, I think to your point, it was a really good choice to make her a 19-year-old here. Like some reckless abandon, some goofiness, like doing the best to be a child in this world. And then events over the course of this season will make her grow up in a hurry. And I think if we had just jumped into that being her, it kind of takes, to your point, takes away from the character development. And I think we needed it. I think
Yeah.
we as TV watchers needed it. Whereas in like a video game, the audience is different. They're a lot more understanding of just like big jumps and change in characters, especially when
Yeah.
it's been so many years
Mhm.
between games 1 and 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was just, like, stuck with this feeling, like, with the time jump where I was like, it felt like everyone else progressed as a character except for Ellie in this episode for me. And she just seemed all like, I was just questioning, I was like, I don't think 19-year-olds, like, act this, like, catty with their parent. Maybe they do. I don't know. Like,
I
to
think they
me,
do.
how her and Dina came off was like a 15-year-olds to me in terms of how they were acting, and not 19-year-olds. Like, it felt just a little too teen drama-y, and I think I just kinda need to settle into that. I think and maybe it's floating between the idea of, like, I'm really disliking how she's acting towards Joel as just, like, within the story, and, like, that's how I'm supposed to feel, and also the aspect of, like, I felt like Ellie and Dean were just dialed up one notch too much for me in terms of their game, characters.
Hmm.
But I think the reason for that is going to be, like you said, it's going to be more of a progression into, especially because they're stretching this out over an extra season, game 2. Yeah, they probably just didn't want to take us from 0 to 100. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. It's just kind of how I was feeling. I mean, do you want to jump into Ellie and Dina? How that dynamic worked for you? That second pairing?
It worked. I think Dina is one of my favorite characters. One of my favorite new characters, I should say. I thought she popped on screen. I thought she made the scenes with Ellie better.
Mhm.
Um, I'm curious to see how their dynamic plays out over this season, because from what I remember, they'll be a big part of season 3, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think like I'll start with like my positives like on this, like the Alpine run, everything about that I thought was awesome. Like them, that was like the most accurate representation of what it's like to play this video game that I've seen in this show, was them
Okay.
in that house, like deciding, like creeping up, climbing up on the roof, sneaking around, the bottle throw. I really laughed when they were doing like the like silent like knife stab
Yeah.
plan. Like that stuff was all like really good. I mean, into the stalker, which was didn't know that was coming in season 2, and that was amazing. So I felt like that whole scene was like really, really good. Yeah, Dina's maybe my favorite new character in part 2 of the game. And I think she's like the life and the happiness of that game, where
Mhm.
there's like none outside of her. Like she's like the only bright spot in part 2 of the game. And I think they were trying to like, through turning her up a little bit in this pilot, like, or this premiere, I think they were just trying to bring that to the TV show and show you that like Dina is life and happiness here. And I could see it like them kind of like bringing that back down a bit in future episodes, but I think they like really wanted to get that across in this premiere. So it was a little too much for me at times, but overall, I thought they had great chemistry. I thought it really worked. The dance scene was, I thought, awesome. I mean, that was like beat for beat the game.
Yeah.
And while like at times like I was feeling like Ellie looked the same and didn't look that much older in comparison to like how they aged up Joel from the season 1, her leaning against the bar in that scene, that was like the moment where I was like, damn, like this is part 2 Ellie. Like, and it like started to like resell me on the older version again. I just thought that whole dance scene was like really good, and it just looked amazing. Like it was just so faithful, the recreation there.
Yes.
Did you
Yeah,
like the dance scene?
that was really cool. Visually, that was a really cool nod to the game to make it exactly the same. I like that scene in the game. I like that scene in the show.
Mhm.
I think
Totally.
it's an important scene, and yeah, I'm glad they kept it in because it would have been an easy one to remove, but I
Yeah.
think it was important. And yeah, no qualms with that scene at
Yeah.
all.
I do like too this new pairing we have of Dina and Joel. Like the fake out in the beginning that you think Joel, he says, "Hey kiddo," and you just expect it to be Ellie walking into the room, and it's Dina. And I thought that was my favorite Dina scene. And like for people who are like, man, I'm already so sold on Dina, like that is a scene where I can like see why. Because like she treats Joel with respect. She clearly looks up to him. And I thought like her acting with Pedro in that scene was just so good.
Yes.
And I really enjoy like the reality that they probably would be closer than they portrayed in the game. Because in the game, I don't think they ever even have a scene together. But it would make sense that if like Dina and Ellie know each other and have been friends in a very small town, Joel and Dina probably have a relationship. And I liked getting to see that. Did you like that change?
I did. I thought that was that was the first time I was like, oh, Dina's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the first time we saw Dina anyway.
Yeah.
So then right from the jump, I was like, okay, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Team Dina.
Yeah. Agreed. We talk about Joel and Gail. Gail's our new character, the therapist.
Moira Rose.
Moira Rose.
Kevin Malone's mom.
Yeah. Where's Kevin? How'd you like the therapist scene?
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely not something you get in the game.
Mm-mm.
The way you see an almost vulnerable moment from Joel was really touching. The way you address, again, the actions of the past having consequences on the future, and her talking about how much she hated him for having to kill her husband, even though he had been bit and was turning. Did we get that in the game? The Eugene character? I can't remember. I didn't replay the beginning.
Yeah, I don't think this is a spoiler to say, but like in one of their rangings, Ellie and Dina go to that house that has the weed farm in the basement, and they
Mhm.
find like the weed farm, and like there's like the porno mags, and they find notes and stuff that indicates that Eugene was the person who lived here. So he wasn't like in the game married or anything. This is a little bit kind of like the Bill and Frank, a little bit of an expansion of the character.
Okay.
But that was the nod of
Okay.
like why Joel brought the weed, because Ellie and Dina were like getting high in the like basement of this house.
That's right. I
So
remembered them getting high, but I didn't remember that being Eugene's place. Okay.
yeah, and Eugene is cast in this show. So we're gonna, and a pretty decently famous actor is playing Eugene. So we're gonna get some more Eugene down the line here.
Perfect.
I thought that scene was really good too. I mean, in terms of like, you know, context, we can make game comparisons as they happen here for people. But I mean, the video game opens with Joel and Tommy having the conversation pretty much that him and Gail had, of Joel telling Tommy more in depth like what went down,
Right.
and it ends with Tommy asking the same question Gail did, and Joel saying to Tommy, "I saved her." And I was almost watching the scene, like loving it. I'm like, man, I almost feel like they could have cold opened with this like Gail Joel session and like really mirror the game in some ways. Cause I really enjoyed the cold open of season 1 with kind of like a little, that kind of pandemic outbreak flashback. But I think it was good to show the initial start of the game, which is like that final decision. Like it was good to root us in that. So like I don't know, I felt like that scene could have like meshed well with that reminder. But I love this scene. I mean, once again, Pedro nailed it, and I'm so excited to see Gail in this. And a lot of people are just feeling like Gail, was a little bit in the bottle, which she was, debating like, do I tell him this thing? And like, it was kind of the booze talking a little bit. I feel more that she was just really leading him, and she knew exactly what she was doing
Yeah.
in terms of like, should I tell him? Like, I believe that she was like, that was all a little bit of putting on some act to loosen him up and have her share something extremely vulnerable, something that is going to change their relationship forever, to maybe make Joel feel like, could I share something that is going to change my relationship forever with someone?
Yeah, that's a
Where
good point.
Joel is going to see like, oh, Gail shared this with me. I can probably still continue life with Gail, and we can get over this now. And Joel did not take the bait, but I thought Gail did an expert job of this. And yeah, I mean, she was fantastic in this episode. I avoided spoilers because I didn't want to know what role she was playing, but I'm really excited about where this is going. I think the final pairing I want to talk about is Tommy and Ellie. This was maybe my favorite Ellie scene, was just her and Tommy. Like, here having, I really enjoy the parts of this episode of Ellie that are like where she's being very serious and deadpan. Like that to me feels really Ellie, when she's like arguing with Tommy and he's like, "You are just like him." She's like, "Well, if you know I'm just like him, I'm going to win this argument." Like that stuff like really, really worked for me. And I thought Bella Ramsey like kills that. But I like the pairing of them. It's gonna have some ramifications down the line. But yeah, did you any notes on the Tommy and Ellie stuff?
No, it was
Tommy
fun.
lies to Joel that they were
Tommy
together.
lies to Joel, and that's an interesting relationship, because if you take the view of Ellie and Joel having a parental relationship, and then Tommy being the uncle, even though her and Joel are having this fight, she needs an authority figure. Tommy realizes that Tommy's doing his
Yeah.
best to be there for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in a change in the game, Tommy has a kid. Tommy does not have a child in the game. And I'm wondering how that choice is going to change some of the dynamics as we go on. Anything else you got to say at a high level, or thoughts on the episode before we hit some sort of rapid fire awards for this episode?
No, I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited for Sundays again.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. All right. Favorite scene?
The dance.
Yeah. Dance was really good. I'm I'll probably go Gail and Joel. Therapy scene really worked for me.
I think that was a scene where it really let the acting shine. And
Yeah.
from that standpoint, that was probably the best acted scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like from true, just you have these singular, powerful performances. But as a collective, I think for me, it was the dance.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dance looked incredible. It's like the stuff you just love to see as someone who's played the game.
Yeah.
Favorite nod, Easter egg to the game?
I've got two.
Yeah.
One is the guitar.
Yeah.
Right? The guitar comes up multiple times in the game. It's not just this throwaway thing for them, it's important. And then the other one was actually the open, where Ellie's having to fight someone much, much larger than her, because that is a consistent throughout both games. Ellie is a small human, just period. And she's constantly fighting an uphill battle. And I thought that was an interesting nod, especially because the choice to cast Caitlin Devers as Abby changes. We know what you said, that Abby is not one of the things in the game is that Abby is physically intimidating to Ellie. She's much bigger, and it's a very different dynamic. So I think by showing that, you kind of give the nods to the game of how Ellie has this uphill battle fighting hand-to-hand combat against humans because she's so small. So I did like that. I like the choice to cast Caitlin Devers too.
She was the original Ellie.
That's what I thought. Why didn't that work out again? Do you remember?
I think because of development of the show took longer by the time they were ready to go. I think Caitlin Devers was too old. She's like our age.
Yeah.
So I think it just wouldn't have worked because Bella Ramsey's 20 in real life, I believe. So she's kind of perfect age. I mean, she is a little bit of the Chalamet, can play a wide range of age because they look so much younger. But yeah, I got big Arya versus Brienne training vibes from that.
Yeah, that was cool.
That Ellie scene. What I really liked that they did in that scene was they showed that Ellie is for a formidable threat to people, but they also showed that she's still very vulnerable in some ways in terms of, the guy pulled his punch, and if she's not careful, like she wasn't with the stalker, she can get got.
Yeah.
It can happen. And she's not invincible. And I like that scene showed that, where she could still choke out this person who's way bigger than her, and that all is totally accurate. But if they land one punch, she's in trouble.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really good aspect. I think my favorite nod to the game was, it was good to see a bottle throw. We didn't get one in season 1.
You stay talking about the bottle throws.
I love the bottle throw. Also, the people were like, what are you doing with the stealth with that knife kill where she jumps on his back? But I'm like, that's exactly how you do it in the game. As Ellie. You literally are just jumping on the back, just stabbing. Getting separated from your companion by falling through. That is such a game move. And then the first time I saw the stalker run behind, I was like, oh no. Because the stalkers, they're my least favorite thing to fight in the game. By far. The guitar is a good one though. I don't know if this episode was titled Future Days. Joel playing Future Days is a big part of the game, the Pearl Jam song. But the game was set in 2013. The show is set in 2003. That song doesn't exist yet by Pearl Jam. I don't know if we're going to get this. We'll see. There's a few song beats that if we don't get this season, I'm going to be a baby about it. Weak link of the episode.
You put teen drama, and maybe you already touched on that. And I was wondering if that's what you meant, what you were saying earlier about Ellie and Dina's behavior is what you're talking about, or if you had something else going on.
Yeah, it was that. I think at 80% of what was going on in this episode with them really worked for me, and I especially loved their interactions solo with adults, Dina with Joel, Ellie with Tommy, even them doing the Alpine Run scene together, that all vibe. But some of the way they were acting when they were like, oh, they're just teenagers. I was like, okay, 19, you're bordering. Like at that point, you're a sophomore in college. Like, are you really acting this way still? Like, it just seemed, it seemed a little too like primetime cable teen drama to me. Like some of the way they were written. And like I said, I could be intentional to show a more drastic change of them over the season. It was like a 50% hit rate on like their goofy antics for me in terms of the vibe and making me laugh. So it just like didn't fully work for me, but it could be intentional. I trust, like I said, I trust the writers. They've earned enough goodwill that I'm going to let it see how it plays out.
Okay. I have 2 weak links,
Yeah.
and one of them might be even answered next week. So early on in the game, you get just a couple minutes of Abby's backstory
Mhm.
and why what Joel did is so personal for her. We didn't get that in episode 1. It may be coming in episode 2. And they make, my fear is, she puts the Firefly dog tag on the one grave. I'm trying to
Yeah.
avoid a spoiler here, but they don't really tell you whose grave that is. And I'm hoping we get that scene in episode 2. So I'm gonna weak link Tev, like maybe, TBD.
Yeah.
The other weak link I have is the fact that I can't binge this show because I know what happens. There's certain points I need to get to so I can breathe again. And now I'm just full of anxiety.
Yeah.
Perpetually.
I
for
think I
8
would have to
weeks.
take a month off of work if I were to binge what I know is going to happen in this show. I think we can move into the spoiler section, but real quick for those before they get out of here, give me out of 10 for this episode premiere.
8.5.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 0.5s. Yeah. I go 7.5. Just leave some
solid.
room for the rest of the season. Yeah. All right. This is your warning. Get the hell out of here. If you have not played this game, I implore you, please
The
leave.
clickers are coming.
When are we killing Joel?
I think here's what I think for episode 2 is episode 2 is going to be action packed because if you remember, like they're running from the horde. You're fighting zombies. That's when they get to the house. They even help Abby and her, like get to safety, right? Which is like makes that dynamic really weird for a second. I think the episode ends with them getting to safety and Joel being like, "Are you okay?" You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like hard stop. And then cold open episode 3, Abby pulls up a gun, shoots Joel. And or it ends with her killing Joel. And then you have a whole week of like, what the fuck? Either way, I think if it's not next episode, it's the very beginning of episode 3.
Yeah. I've like flipped back and forth where there were parts of me I was like, okay, do they save it for kind of like maybe a second or third to last episode type thing, and then we see the fallout? Do they like really drag it?
I hope not. That'll make it too slow.
I don't think so, because I think, yeah, I mean, it's such a shock because of how early it happens in the game. Like I was just not ready for that. Like, you kind of think it could happen. You don't expect in like the first hour of playing. And it was like Red Wedding-esque.
I was going to relate it to Jon Snow.
Yeah.
I got so mad when Jon Snow died. I stopped watching the show for like 3 weeks. And when Joel died, I had to put the game down. I was like, fuck this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that was such a good gameplay decision, such a good storytelling decision. I'm just angry because I cared about the character.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, they're talking about how like, Jesse said to them like, hey, don't drink too much. You guys got patrol tomorrow morning. Like, so I'm like, okay, could it be next episode? I don't know. Yeah, so we'll see. I think if I were to put money on it, I'll say episode 3.
Okay.
but we'll see. I would agree though, like when they should do it, if I was doing it, I'd say 2 or 3, and then heavy use of flashbacks moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think they're going to tackle the Abby gameplay choice and like make that like hit as hard? Because when you in the game switch to controlling Abby, I'm not sure I've ever played a game where I've hate played for like an hour more than this game. Where with Ellie, I'm so cautious when I play, and stealth, like I said. With Abby, I was just like, I'm just running into every fight, hoping I get killed. Leroy Jenkins, like you said, because I was so upset.
I
And
think
it won me over time, but like I don't know how you portray that in a show.
that's the point. You're going to get, I think we're going to start getting full episodes from the Abby POV. And I think that's going to bring people around in the same way. And I think that's the way they're going to be able to extend this into 2 seasons, is by, you will get some new stuff with the Abby, you will get some additional context with the Abby, and you will get some same scene, different perspective from the
Yeah.
from Abby's, point of view. And I think that's going to really bring people around to feel really conflicted by the end of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then with how the game ends, with that, they finally get their ultimate fight, just the 2 of them, and Abby and Ellie both just like, this is fucking stupid. Like, everyone we know is dead. Everyone we've loved is dead. Can we please just, like, they move on. And Abby bit her fingers off, so now she can't even play guitar anymore. And like, there's just a lot of really powerful moments that are coming at the end of this show. And I think the only way they're successful is if they make you care about Abby.
Yeah.
And how do you care about Abby? You see things from her perspective.
Man, you're just like hunting Tommy as Abby, hunting Ellie as Abby, being Ellie and like still beating the shit out of Abby at the end of the game. It was just like, there were so many moments where I'm just like, just stop, please. Like, you are all sickos for making me do this.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, I've never experienced something like this. And it's just going to be interesting to see how that like translates to the screen. I'm excited and I'm emotionally dreading it all, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to go too much into it when we were talking about the weak link, but it's just such a shock when you realize that Abby's group, because in the game you kind of think they're looking for Joel's group as like you're saving them from the wilderness, and like the switch to realize, oh no, they've been looking for us and something's wrong, like worked so well in the game that they've kind of played that card a little bit already with the opening. So I'll see how it rolls out in the season, but yeah, I'm curious. What are you most looking forward to seeing this season, do you think?
Honestly, I'm not looking forward to any of it. Like,
No.
I am, but I'm not. Like, I just know that I'm going to be so sad for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And I, I, I think the things I am excited for are in season 3. That brief moment in time where it seems like, so after they kill all of Ellie's friends, like every single one of them,
Yeah.
they lose the trail on Ellie. They go back, and there's a brief moment in time where Ellie and Dina live on a farm. They have sheep. They're raising a child. Like,
It's like, just end the game here, please.
it was like, maybe there's some peace for one of our protagonists here, until fucking Tommy shows up and says, I found her.
I've never hated Tommy more in my life.
And Tommy gets so wounded that he can't go.
He can't move on.
And then Ellie feels guilty, and she goes back to the farm. And Dina said, if you go, I'm gone. I'm not doing this again. And then Ellie's alone on this farm. Her fingertips have been bitten off. She can't even play guitar.
Yeah.
In her pursuit of vengeance, which she didn't even get because she didn't, do it. She loses everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of the game, too.
Yeah.
Or one of the points of the game. So it's just, it's going to be a really tough couple years, but I think it's going to be a show that people need to see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think Yeah, I just remember getting to like the Santa Barbara, the end part where you're looking for Abby and Lev, and you're just like, Ellie, just stop, please. just just let it go. And like you think, oh, she's gonna free Abby and go on their own ways, and then she just keeps going at her. I'm like, stop. It's just so hard. In terms of what I'm looking forward to, I'm really excited to see more Isaac and maybe more depth added to the WLF, because I felt like the game had so much going on that the Isaac, if there's one critique I have of the game, the Isaac plotline felt a little undercooked to me. And especially when they had Jeffrey Wright as the voice actor. So them getting him for the show, I really hope that they build out Isaac a little bit more as a threat, and we get more. I loved all the stadium stuff there. Like I'm really interested to see more of that side of this world. So I hope we get a little bit more there.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we will.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But overall, decent start. I have some questions on how they're going to do some of the Abby stuff. I'm interested to see how they adjust the characters of, Ellie and Dina, moving forward after some of these events. But I can't wait, and I also very much can't wait. Any final thoughts you got?
I'll talk to you on Monday.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we should do like the thanks for listening, everybody, before we get to the spoiler section, before, in future episodes. But yeah, I mean, thanks for listening, everybody. The Last of Us coverage will continue. We've got more on the regular feed coming your way. Gone Girl, Les Mis, Mafia May, doing Goodfellas and Casino. We're going to be doing our first ever actor deep dive, doing the Val Kilmer files to commemorate the legend that he was. So that'll be coming up. If you have thoughts or questions you want to share, please reach out to us via email at rewatchplaypod@gmail.com. Message us on Instagram at rewatchplaypodcast, and find us on all your major platforms, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your pods. Please rate and review 5 stars only, or we will set you loose with a Rat King. I don't know. And importantly, tell your friends about it. Thanks everyone for listening. And Nick, once again, more than ever, when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light.